Has Dubai entered the low margin era? This is what we're discussing on today's edition of Inside AB. I'm Shruti Nair and this is Shayan Shakil. Right, so Shayan, first off, before we begin, what exactly is the low margin era?
Well, okay, I'd love to take credit for this, but I didn't coin the
You didn't
phrase.
coin the term.
No, I actually heard it from Petrochem CEO and billionaire Yogesh Mehta. Although it is a term that's known in economics and finance quite well. So basically what happens is for every unit that you bring into your company, the actual profit that you earn is very small. As opposed to a high margin environment where, for instance, if you were bringing in $100 in your company, you would maybe make $20, which is pretty high margin. A low margin means maybe you get $2 out of this.
Okay.
So what your company will try to do is, try increase the volume of, activity that it does, so that it can keep adding those little bits of low margin, units, and finally come up with a profit, a good profit. You see a lot of companies doing this, like Kareem and stuff, when they talk about scaling up. What they're basically saying is their margins are really low, and so they need volume to attain profitability.
Right, so why exactly are we having this conversation right now? Why do you think, or why does Yogesh Mehta think that we are entering a low margin era?
Well, he was saying that, basically China became a factory of the world, single-handedly oversupplied the market in terms of everything, steel, manufacturing, chemicals, whatever. And then you had other countries trying to do that as well. There's manufacturing in Saudi Arabia, manufacturing in the UAE, obviously manufacturing in the US and stuff. India's manufacturing, and India used to be tech deficient, now it's tech efficient. So basically there's a lot of everything in the market.
Right.
And that means that people to get, companies to get other people to buy from them need to just basically sell at lower margins. What has also happened is that technology has become so prevalent that previously people used to be able to capitalize on that information gap. They didn't know that how much something was being sold, say 50 kilometers away. And so they could charge a higher price here because they were closer to the consumer.
Right.
Now technology is just everywhere. Everybody knows what the price of things are. You can transport really cheaply. So that is making it hard for, as Yogesh Mehta said, to capitalize as you used to. And that's really the story of the world right now. I mean, it's also the story of, it's mainly the story of what the UAE and Dubai have entered into, he says.
Right. And do you see this happening across the region or just in Dubai?
Well, you see this kind of happening across the region, but of course you also see this happening in Dubai mostly because, as we'll talk over the course of this episode, you see this in the real estate industry, you see this in the malls. There's sales everywhere.
Yeah. But I actually just wanted to ask you that what are the main sectors that are being affected by the low margin era, or is it across all sectors?
Well, I also spoke to Paras Damecha at Empire Aviation Group, and he says that it's the same story in his. I mean, previously in Dubai, you could earn like a tremendous amount of money. The boom years lasted from sometime around the 80s to about 2014. They say 2008 was a bad year, but the actual boom lasted until 2014, and now it's not doing very well.
So is he saying we've fallen off the cliff, or we're just standing at the edge?
That's exactly what he's saying. Yogesh Mehta said that. He said the world did fall off a cliff in 2014, and everybody thought it was temporary. It was a one-year thing. But he says this is actually the 5th year. So he's a strong advocate of saying the good days are over. Now, Paras Damecha wasn't as harsh. He was saying that you definitely can't make as much money as you used to, but things are stable. You have to work harder for your money. Both businessmen did agree that you have to work harder for your money. You have to get closer to the customer. You have to be able to just do things exactly when your customer wants it. And you see this in a lot of places. I mean, the low margin environment is indicative of even Emirates' fortunes. Emirates' revenue went up in its last earnings statement that it came up with in November. It's half-year statement, but its profitability really just plummeted, like in the 80% arena.
Right. So this is actually a pattern we've seen with malls as well. You briefly mentioned it earlier, where the sales are really going up, but we don't see that in the profitability.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what the malls are going through is a combined situation. I mean, there's a lot of people visiting malls. There's very few people buying stuff at malls.
Yeah.
And then there's some malls that are not doing as well as other malls. Like Dubai Mall, for instance, because of that Emirates Skywards agreement, where every dollar spent at Dubai Mall will get you 1 Skywards mile. Or something around that area. I think it's $100 for 1 Skyward mile. So what they're doing is basically, it's really affecting the other malls, but also the tourists are coming in, but there was a problem with where they were coming in from, and now you finally have the Russian and Chinese tourists coming back in, which means that they're able to spend at malls. But it's Dubai Mall that's doing better than the other malls, because people are here to see like the biggest, greatest, grandest.
But Shay, I mean, right now obviously we're still recovering from the whole economic downturn. So do you think we could also get over the whole low margin era, or are we in it for the long haul?
Well, I don't think either of these billionaires. Yogesh Mehta as a billionaire and Pars Damecha as the managing director of a really important business aviation company. I don't think any of them were saying that the low margin era is a bad thing. What they're saying is that don't expect to be able to just dip your hand into Dubai and come out with gold. Now you have to work hard for it. It's become a much more competitive market. And you can see it even in terms of, it looks like, it's obviously a downturn, but the real estate prices were increasing tremendously. Now you have things that are a bit more, just better for the consumer. You can, in Arabian ranches, you pay 10% right now, and the rest over 7 years, and you get a villa. Because it was quite, only high flyers were able to pay like all that money for like a villa in Dubai. And within like 2 years or 3 years, which is what the payment plans were earlier.
But also there's like a rise in the off-land properties right now, because people are investing for the longer term and not just for the short term, because they're not really expecting returns immediately.
So you see that sort of gap bridging between Dubai as like, a 5-year city towards a long-term city sort of. So now, there's multiple ways to go with this. It also means that the companies that will survive are the companies that are either like large enough to be able to drop their margins down, penetrate into a market, and then create a place for themselves where people start buying their products. Or you have to be super innovative. You have to be super competitive. You have to know what your consumer wants. You need to understand digital. In fact, Yogesh Mehta was saying that the dynamic has completely changed. AI will change things in a way that we don't even know. 3 to 5 years from now, the competition isn't even born, and it'll only take between 3 to 5 years for it to be born. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. It has happened in other parts of the world. So Dubai is going through that sort of like a maturation phase, if you will. But it does mean that that kind of really growth environment that everybody was used to looks like it's over.
Oh, great. But very interesting. I would like to speak to you more about this, but unfortunately we're running short of time. But thank you, Shayan, for those valuable insights. So it looks like Dubai has entered the low margin era, but it is not necessarily a bad thing. Thank you for watching Inside AB. We will be back again tomorrow. So don't forget to like, follow, share and subscribe.